So this is a little bit of, this is some examples of some of the fashion bits that I do. So they're usually what we call like style edit openers. So they'll open the fashion section, and it'll usually be one item shot in a particular way. Like this was, you know, I think it was like a gift sort of party opener. This was to celebrate, I think it was Jules's, I think it says 30th birthday. So, you know, use balloons and things. Then the beauty, again, these are either a one product or, you know, like a new range or more of an edit, like these are all blushes. And I do quite a fair amount over the years of commercial work, which is linked to the company. So this is a Soap and Glory advertorial. So you kind of not got as much power of what products are, you know, you've got to put all those products into that shot and make it look pretty, even though, you know, you wouldn't probably put them all together in normal circumstances. And same with our beauty edit, you know, you don't get to think, oh, he doesn't quite fit, I'll take him out. That's what comes with the box. You've got to put him in and make him look nice. And as I said, I do, with working on the newspaper side of things, had to do some random things over the years. Do a lot of beauty before and afters, which obviously over the last year with COVID we haven't done. But the best one was poor Hannah was on the front page of the newspaper in the end holding a raw chicken for her feature. So I'll go into, this is what I do for some of my shoots on kind of day to day. So I usually start, well, I always have Pinterest mood boards with just ideas. I mean, even you get emails from Pinterest being like, here's some new pins for your board, and I always add things on. And, you know, summer, I know we always do sunscreen. Christmas, you know, there's always going to be gift things and glittery things. And I just always, I think I just like seeing ideas, and, you know, if I see something, I'll add it to one of my boards. So I've always got one for beauty shoes, one for still life accessories, that kind of thing, just always adding to it. And then when I'm doing, we actually know what the product is for a shoot, I usually start a collaboration document for then for this one, say like the beauty editors can drop in any references or ideas that they've got they want to add into it. Then this is a little bit of a boring one, mood board, but yeah, do a mood board. So this was for one of the beauty boxes. So not everything will be taken literally. So like, oh, I like that box with the products at that angle. These colours are nice. Quite like the element of the boxes. Here we were like, oh, actually the spills are interesting. But that just kind of gives the whole mood all together. It doesn't have to be exactly what you've got in mind. And also major influence, which obviously you don't get as much, people don't buy as many magazines and there aren't as many magazines as there used to be, but just getting what other companies are doing, that kind of thing, what's in fashion or popular. Even like this one, or the spray painted the roses for the background to match the product, you know, like that's an idea we could use and transfer very easily. So this is on to a shoot. So this was a Vitacoco shoot for a range of products. This was the PR reference shot. So on quite a bit of a neutral background, like our magazine print, some of the papers aren't great quality, so we try not to shoot on too lighter colours. But you know, there's elements like the palms, coconut's quite nice, but thought let's do it on a blue background, then maybe add some sand to give a bit more interest. And obviously I want some palm leaves to get those shadows. Coconuts do look good, but you know, see if there was enough space and things. So here's a little of the process. So see, got the blue backdrop up, got the trusty sand, and we've put some of the products on little blocks that we want to cover with the sand so you can't see, and also so they don't look like they're floating too much. Got our lighting set up there. And then at the moment we're doing a lot of it remotely, so there is a lot of back and forth over email, doing the little tweaks and things. But then the final element is adding those palm leaves in to get that shadow. And then we end up with the final result. So you can't see any of the block, and hopefully they don't look like they're floating, like they're nicely nestled on the beach side, having a lovely time. So that's like more like a product range singular. This concealers edit is more of the editor will pick their favorite concealers to basically make an edit, rather than it being like one branded product. So as we're working remotely, I'll usually send her a photo of what the selection is, and she'll say, you know, like that one. Then she wanted to do a similar layout to a shot we had done previously, but do it on more neutral coloured, skin-toned backgrounds. But for me as well, I don't want to do it exactly the same. So I was like, let's do it the opposite angle. So to do that, again, that's a nice, easy, cheap way to do a shoot. You know, with like a lot of magazines, we don't have unlimited budget. So already got paper, stick the paper onto some foam board, layer it all up. Then my trusty friend Blue Tack. That's what I used to say to Caroline when I was first starting out, that she'd show me pictures and I'd be like, how have you done that? And she'd be like, Blue Tack. And I was just like, how? That's incredible. It's usually Blue Tack. Then these little kids building blocks are a favourite as well, that are just great to, you know, put in so we can still get that nice shadow without it being too big a space. Laying out the products, getting them nice and angled. Things like the wand will like clean off any product that's on it so it looks nice and clean, and then get the reflectors in. And you can use any white surface. These are just foam boards that you can get in art stores, but things like sheets, and I often, for smaller, tighter in shoots, will use just A4 sheets of paper to just bounce that little bit of light in, because this is nice and metallic. You want to get that nice and shiny. And then it ends up like that. So we've reflected that in nicely, got the nice sharp shadow lines, but still the nice tonal colours across it. Then this is a little bit more of a vaguer brief. I think the theme was post-lockdown party, which I don't think this really screams that from the product. Gold, it's always going to look a little bit Christmassy. And again, you know, you can get a few different people's opinions, and especially remotely, that can be a little bit hard to kind of herd people in a direction. But this bottle is very black, whereas they quite like the light coming through, but obviously that's not going to be possible if you have a black. You know, it's the classic, can you make it lighter? And I'm like, but it's black, I can't, there's no colour. That is the darkest colour. They quite like this, which was again a little bit different. And then this was a previous shot I'd done a few Christmases ago of that kind of mirror looking a little bit dancey, dance floor, which was a little bit post-lockdown vibe. But these are some of the rough shots that we did to try in different setups, like having the mirror more towards the front, then having it more toward the back, but then it's looking quite dark, and we are coming into summer. And again, that's the most light you're getting through with the light blasting through it. Sometimes, especially remotely, you just have to do things just to show people like this is as much as we can achieve. Then we've gone to the corner. Again, that's a bit dark. And then this is more lighter, but also I want to do extra shots to get this gold logo really clear. So I've ended up with a setup that's in the corner, gold on the bottom to reflect into the mirrors, and again these trusty foam board reflectors. This image doesn't look that looks a little bit pixelated on here, but I assure you it wasn't at the time. So I thought I'd include a section now on the home studio of 2020, that in March last year I brought my studio home, and it ended up being for 8 months. And my boyfriend and me had actually only just moved into our flat 2 weeks before, so there was like boxes everywhere still. But luckily we did have a 2-bedroom flat, so this is our like second bedroom that had a desk, a TV and his PlayStation and like our sofa bed. But then it ended up having my Coloramas, a little table that I had luckily, and that's one of our shoots. So this was how, using a lot of my props were locked in the basement in our office, we weren't allowed in, so all the shops were closed. You know, we used Amazon a lot, unfortunately, as we couldn't get hold of anything else. And my sand was locked at work. So this sand was actually very kindly, my boyfriend leaned over the park playground fence and scooped some sand up for me. But as you can see, it's very, very dirty sand. And even my whole hub, we called it the park sand, as we used it many times over the summer. It was affectionately, we'll get the park sand out. But, you know, using Photoshop, cleaned it up considerably. And these are just little straws, paper straws, and then cocktail umbrellas, which, you know, ends up looking really effective, nice and bright and summery. And as you can see, always having to leave the space for the text and the cell. So then another example, again, really simple, A3 sheet of pink paper, some baby breast flour, just really clean and simple. No, some things don't need to be overly complicated. You know, your focus is on the product. As you can see on the layout, there's quite a lot of text on this for one item, you know, and it frames it all quite well. Another one, again, I did try to at some point steer the beauty girls in the direction of what materials I had. You know, I brought a big folder of paper home. These are all red lip products, so right, let's use some red paper, some white. This magazine, the paper's a bit better quality, so they can take a white, and white always looks a little bit more high end and expensive. But you know, that's an easy setup. You can do at home with a few sheets of paper. This was probably one of our larger shoots we did at home. Here's my glamorous assistant, who was a lifeline helping me during lockdown with these shoots. This, we tried doing it flat overhead, didn't work. I had to actually put this is like my dining living rooms, like we have our TV, we have our table there and our sofa. So I had to put a table in the garden. You know, they were quite big operations, and sometimes that's hard to explain to editors that are, you know, comfortable at home and not realizing that you're turning your flat upside down. But as you see, Chris held the corner of the skirt and let it go to create that nice movement, and then obviously removed it in post afterwards. But like I say, that one's a little bit more challenging, more on the size for large items. So I did try to stick to just doing beauty at home, as the fashion is obviously a lot larger. This is another beauty, again, simple pink paper, roses. The roses arrived a little bit bashed up on this one, and there were no florists open, so again we had to do a bit of retouching on that. I was using, this is my small tripod, but actually in my still life studio in the office I have a Cambo stand, like it's a big freestanding 7-foot cast iron stand with an arm, so it's nice and secure. So this was always a bit of a health and safety hazard with the weight all the time. This is the last one, is my favourite lockdown shoot, which was using my beloved Zara spotty dress. This, again, we're just trying to find things we had at home, which I hope you can't tell from the final product. But these were all dark spot creams. So it was like spotty dress. A few of the products had orange in them. We don't, you know, this Morad one stands out a lot. So putting the orange in just took the focus away from, so he didn't stand out amongst the others. But again, just adapting with what I had at home throughout, and which we do a lot normally in the studio, or, you know, order in props and things like that. But definitely while we're at home, we had to just go on what we had. This my snake plant, that featured in one of the shots as well, with a snake skin dress. So moving on to what kind of things I would always recommend. Different angles. These this one's straight overhead. You know, these are all soaps that are very square and straight, so that works really well. Laying these out, they are on the floor flat, looking down, just gives that little extra element of interest rather than being flat overhead. You can still have one standing up. These were higher up on a box, looking up to them, so make them look a little more grander. But yeah, just playing around and see what you've yeah, try what I tend to do when I'm always shooting. because I have such a big heavy tripod, I will always just look at the subject and just like bend up and down, move around, kind of see where I think it looks nice framed up, which, you know, if you're shooting on your camera phone is easy to do as well, as you're not connected to a tripod. But that just really helps to see rather than just shooting things straight on, which can get a bit boring all the time. Rule of thirds, I do use this quite a lot, probably a lot more unintentionally than I realise, but on my software I use Capture One that I shoot to on my computer. I can put a grid over things, but you know, you can pretty much see, you know, this image here wouldn't work if it was in the centre. It works brilliantly to one side, then they can put head and text here. This background is still centred, so it's centred on the image, but it looks a lot more natural being stacked to the side. Otherwise you'd have all this empty space to the right. And again, this could be straight on in the middle if you wanted, but it just looks a little bit nicer that you don't need to see the whole of the circle. But you know, having the grid, that can help you decide the best spot to place objects and just help you break away from just centering. But yeah, try moving it to left or right and see, you know, it might look awful, might look great, but it's always worth having a play around. With a lot of my products, it depends on the stylist as well. People do like to keep it simple, but minimalist shots do speak for themselves, particularly when it is a single product, rather than the edits where it, you know, like the concealers where it was like 6 different concealers of different brands. But it's all about the product. The reader can see it clearly. Props should be secondary with these ones. And again, play around with the composition, have different angles, test different layouts and arrangements. Always think as well, trust your gut. If you think, oh, actually that doesn't look right, you know, try something different, but identify kind of what makes your photo pleasing for you, but also how your viewer is going to see it. And in my case, a lot of the time it's in the magazine. I do always find odd numbers are always better. If it's a single product, such as like this L'Oreal, I'll always ask them to request 3 samples. Then that just gives me a little bit more flexibility. So in this case, I did use 3, and I just think it's a lot more impactful. You know, can pick out the red on the product, a bit of grey from the silver, and you know, it's not that exciting, you know, it's navy, red and silver. I just think that creates a little bit more interest, and also it's kind of your eye dots around a little bit more. Instead of you just focusing, staring at one, you're kind of looking at all 3. Things like perfume though, you know, a simple prop is enough, because perfumes you don't normally get, they are expensive, more premium item, so 1 on its own is fine. This Skin and Me, for example, this was actually a subscription, I believe, so having more than 1 worked well to show that it wasn't ongoing, rather than just the 1 product. Yeah, going back to the last one, the brows, your hands are tied sometimes though. Say this was 6 colours they brought out, so obviously you can't do an odd number there. But again, just kind of make it so you're not just focusing on 1, you are dotting around looking at all the different, all 6 of them. But yeah, for that reason, you know, I usually do prefer a set of 3. If we're doing the group shots like the concealers, I do prefer to do like 5 or 7, but at the end of the day, the editor does get the final say on those matters. I use a lot of complementary colours and textures, say like with the rainbow shoe, pulling out the colours in it. You know, on first glance, you might not really even notice how many colours you've got in the shoe, whereas this highlights it a lot more. I always love like red against red, you know, purple against purple. I think it makes it look really bold and stand out. And I think for this case, all the shades kind of contrast a little bit more, rather than just all looking red. If they're on a white, they might not stand out as much. We've used some leaves here for, you know, I think this was some kind of like long lash falsies, so it's basically, you know, falsie mascara, you know, giving that kind of fluttering eyelash effect. And again, the denim doesn't stand out as much, but it's a nice touch having the denim jacket on the denim, but just giving that little extra element. such as picking out the colours in the shoes, gives the viewer's eye a bit more emphasis to go on. No, it won't work for every object, obviously, but it's something nice to consider. One thing I use quite a lot, again, like I say, cheap and effective, especially in the last year when I have had a nice bit of paper at home with me, is using your 2 or 3 tone backgrounds. Colour prints really well in our magazines, it's nice and bold, creates a striking contrast between 2 distinct colours. Picking out the product, like this is lovely with the red and the pink, or your tonal colours. Again, like the spot dress with the orange, then you're bringing that orange with the orange of the background out of the picture. But that just works really well and effective, like these ones, purple shampoos and purple hair treatments, so different colours of purple, that's going to have some kind of headline about being purple. It's very clear when the reader sees it. So one final slide is my situational found still life. So these are all taken on my iPhone, an old one, no portrait mode on that. But this approach is a lot more impromptu. You never know when you might see something that catches your eye. So this beach bag of mine was on holiday and just had it by the side of the pool, and me being me, I can't help but be like, oh, that looks quite nice. It says hello sunshine, and there's sunshine. And I was on holiday in end of November. So it was nice and sunny, when obviously back home in England it wasn't. And again, the little table shots, this was just sat outside in the sunshine and got a beautiful shadow through the glass. Sunlight is always going to give you that gorgeous hard shadow that my lights that I have definitely don't give me in the studio. And again, things like your mantelpiece, always lovely for framing, and even the port. This is in Porto. I remember I did actually dip down, so I could get that horizon in. And if you stood up, that picture wouldn't be the same. You'd just be looking at, if you took it from standing, you'd just be getting a table of glasses. Whereas if you just dip down, you can get a beautiful background in as well. And again, some Prosecco and some Jenga in the sunshine, just making a small movement, like moving the glass to one side, just frames the image. It's kind of, don't just look and take the picture, see if there's any small adjustments you can do to enhance the picture.